Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into the microphone. Why? Well, just because I can.
That's Gordon Freeman. The Vortigaunt said he was on the way. Dr. Freeman, Alex Vance is over here. The board's trying to patch her up.
Yeah, I will listen to all of the commentary here because later there is a big fight and I don't want to cheat by having it making me invulnerable.
Griggs and Sheckley started off as minor characters who were just used to explain the setup for the turret battle. Once done, they died fairly quickly, leaving the players alone to fend off the antlion swarms. We found this left players unsure of their defensive strategies and would force them to visually survey the cavern before setting up defenses. So we made the two characters stronger and had them yell out their state to players, and even suggest what openings the players should cover. This gave players extra time to set up a defensive strategy before the antlions arrived. This also let us ratchet up the intensity level by slowly heightening their reaction to the threats. Once we realized this worked, we decided to separate the characters and create an Abbott and Costello style team, to do little bits during the downtime the players were using to set up their defenses. We ended up with entertaining character moments that also cued the player on game state and events.
Griggs and Sheckley's comment about not stepping on the grubs was originally intended for comedic effect, and to suggest that, as usual, Gordon Freeman had brought trouble in his wake. However, we found that some players took this comment too literally, and would spend the rest of the level avoiding grubs in fear of spawning more antlions. We experimented for a short time with making this an actual mechanic, bringing in antlions whenever grubs are squished, but this had several negative results. It made the tunnels far too difficult, and cancelled out any benefit the player got from squishing grubs for health. We decided to keep the grub behavior simple and rewarding.
The breach is a rough, earthen tunnel, which many playtesters tended not to notice when the attack began. They felt they had been told to defend only the 3 marked tunnel openings. We addressed this confusion by changing the sequence of antlion waves so that the second attack came through the breach. Players then understood that all 4 openings were vulnerable.
In Half-Life 2 and Episode 1, players learned that turrets will always attack them, unless they are reprogrammed by allies. We needed a new visual way to instantly show that these new turrets are also allies, and decided to hark back to the aircraft nose art of World War II. The elaborate turret design also hints at how bored Griggs and Sheckley must have been sitting down here by themselves.
Okay, and there is another one there.
We experimented a lot with the ammunition for this level. Originally we had a single ammo crate containing submachine gun bullets, positioned down near the elevator. Playtesters, however, seemed happy using a shotgun in this battle, so we added a crate full of shotgun shells and moved both crates to the top area, so players could easily trade off between different styles of gunplay.
The turret battle design went through many changes. Early stages had the player controlling 3 turrets and not ever having to fight antlions directly. After playtesters complained of not having anything to do during the battles, we changed the number of turrets to leave the player underhanded when in later rounds all the tunnels are active. This creates a better mix of resource management and combat. Later, we added this tweaked version of the hopper mines to give players yet another tool for fighting the onslaught.
Every Half-Life game so far has started with Gordon Freeman weaponless. Assuming some players had just played through Episode 1, while others might not have played it at all, we had to decide how long we should spend parceling out new weapons and providing adequate time to player practice with each one. In this case, we decided to hand the player a number of weapons all at once, figuring most would have mastered their gunplay in previous episodes. We held off doing a lot of deliberate training until we began introducing newer modes of combat later in the episode.
In Half-Life 2, Lou Gossett's voice lent itself to a mystical and mysterious characterization of the Vortigaunt. In Tony Todd's reading for Episode 2, we heard new possibilities for a Vortigaunt who's more of a mystic martial artist. With new attack animations and companion behavior, we worked with Tony to build the Vortigaunt into a powerful ally, a full-on alien ass-kicker.
Yeah, I really like the Vortigaunt's as characters.
At the climax of the turret battle, we introduced the Vortigaunt in full-on action mode. The player can and should take part in the battle, but we were very careful to make it fairly easy for him to hang back and enjoy watching the forts clear the room of antlions. We wanted to show off the Vortigaunt's new abilities and get the player excited about the role they were going to play as active allies in the struggle against the Combine.
Because they seem really kind of like monks. They're really powerful, but they also a kind of philosophical in their approach to life. So they're all almost sort of like alien Shaolin monks or something like that.
Freeman. It is well. The Alex Vance clings to the margins. My kin are still some distance away. For now, we must not be disturbed.
Yeah, well, about that. As long as you're down here, Freeman, maybe you can give us a hand. Let me show you how the antlion sensors work. Got some supplies over here if you need them. Health and ammo, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I accidentally picked up a medkit that I didn't need.
This sensor will light up if an antlion's coming down this tunnel. More lights mean more antlions. When a tunnel lights up, we move a few turrets in front of it. Pretty simple, eh, Doc?
Hey, Doc. On your way here, you weren't followed, were you?
Now listen. This place is riddled with antlions.
Ford says...
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Down there by the board. Everything you need, Doc. They're coming. One light.
Let's move. We have to defend the board.
Okay, they should be able to handle that themselves. While I set up the sensors. It has smiley faces on the bottom.
You ever seen an antlion before?
What was that supposed to mean? Save. Okay, might have placed the mines a little too early.
Dr. Freeman, you take care of the turrets.
I can actually shoot them with the shotgun. Because I have unlimited ammo for it. Okay. Okay, something.
No offense, Freeman, but things were pretty quiet until you showed up. Swarm at 24!
Come on, let's go!
I'm coming.
They are kind of weird, just although I think programming them in a way that they would avoid the mines would be too difficult and kind of pointless as well, because they are invincible after all. I understand what they were going for, but I think giving you unkillable allies lessens the tension quite a lot.
Come on, try to keep up.
Let's just stay here. We got 36.
You handle it well, Doc. Hey, if you see a bug on me, how about you try to get it off next time?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, no, sure. They're only like 5 feet tall.
in general, this battle seems kind of lackluster in terms of actual challenge. Some encounters with the Combine in Half-Life 2 were actually better later in the game.
We got the breach. Hey, Doc, you cover 24.
Okay, everywhere. 4 to 12.
Save just in case. Yeah, the turrets seem more than capable of stopping the Alliance approach.
I got 10.
Yeah, well, we all got 10. There's hundreds of them. Hey, Doc, you cover the breach.
There are 12.
We got 24.
What's wrong with that hole?
Okay, so I can take this. As I said, making them invincible really sort of lessens the challenge because they can manage this side all by themselves. Unless they can die, but only have like a huge amount of health, but I don't think they can. They never did in all the times I played this game. So I don't think they can die.
There can't be many more.
What the hell makes you think that? We got 12.
Incoming at 36. And the breach. And 24. Oh God, they're coming from everywhere.
Yeah, it's not actually as intense and as I'd like it to be. Especially considering this is hard. But I must say it's really satisfying to blast them with the shotgun.
That nest must be bigger than we thought.
Save.
2 lights.
We can't hold out much longer.
We'll take 36.
Got to watch all the tunnels, Freeman. We can do this, right, guys? Protect us!
Okay, that's... Okay, maybe it got a little more intense
Last turret just thrown.
at this point. But just a little, to be honest. Still not overly hard.
got 3 lights.
Why are there so many? I think we misunderestimated. Look alive. Get ready. Okay, get ready. 3 lights. This is gonna be bad.
Actually, it won't.
Hey, support,
Freeman. Our delay. Regrettable. We killed many antlions. Yet many more remain. We must attend to the Alex Vance. There is no time. More antlions approach. We shall quiet them.
Shit, the whole place is lit up. Grab it, Hollow.
I wasn't even supposed to be here. You ready, Freeman? Where, Freeman?
This is mostly a show, more than anything else. A show of the Vortigaunt combat abilities. I don't think they can die either. As I said, it's mostly a time for the Vortigaunts to show off. Music in the background, it's pretty nice.
We have exhausted their meat. Now to the next matter of urgency. The Alex Vance. Her injuries are grave. This will necessitate deep submersion into vortexes. Indeed. We require the larval extract. Oh, yes. The extract. Yes. Agreed.
I will make the journey to seek the extract, deep within the nest, in the sacred nectarium. But I cannot hope to bring it back alone.
We must remain to keep the Alex Vance alive. Please, Freeman, join me. Yes, take the Freeman. Yes, there is no finer companion. Well stated.
I really liked them. It's difficult to pinpoint why, but they are kind of like they're really powerful, but also kind of adorable.
Follow, Freeman.
Long.
The way they speak with those weird turns of phrases, using antiquated words and whatever.
In the prototype for this level, the Vortigaunt cleared the way by blasting apart a rock pile. After a new model was created for the generator, we decided to exploit the Vortigaunt's natural relationship with electricity by having him charge the generator much the way he charges Gordon's suit. We were then able to use generators as Vortigates throughout the level to indicate areas the player could only enter with the Vortigaunt's assistance.
One of the 3 main themes for antline areas, the mines were a plausible setting for light sources, mechanical obstacles, and resupply. Visually, the mines offer good contrast to the natural
Okay, kind of cut off, but was nearing the end of the comment anyway. And that's a weird dancing grub. Strange ragdoll bug.
The inline web stacks, grubs, and workers show off a new illumination shader we developed especially for this level. We began with concept art for the web stacks, modeled those, then added the material parameter that allows the model's self-illumination to be modified based on the angle at which the player views them. The end result is an object that looks lit from within by a weird volumetric light.
Okay, I'll explore the area first and kill the enemies before visiting the foundry. But once again, I don't think he can die, so sort of a crutch really for the player. Because in addition to having really powerful attacks, he can withstand the enemy attacks indefinitely.
We wanted players to work cooperatively with the Vortigaunt just like they did with Alex in Episode 1. We didn't want to make the Vortigaunt too powerful or he might take away from the player's fun, but we also wanted him to be a good ally to have around. One solution, shown in this scene, was a shock attack where the Vortigaunt would stun a group of antlions so that the player could finish them off.
The antlion experience in Half-Life 2 was characterized by a mindless, constant onslaught of bugs rushing your way. We devised the antlion worker for Episode 2 as a way to add depth and variety to the underground sequences by leveraging new types of gameplay. Unlike normal antlions, the worker chooses to avoid direct confrontation, skulking in the background and lobbing acidic globs from a distance. This extends the amount of time players spend with each creature. By contrast, an encounter with an ordinary antlion is over in seconds. The spitting behavior was derived from the bull squid of Half-Life 1, but was updated to fit the more physical world of Half-Life 2. To that end, the spit globs are not merely sprites, but physically simulated objects, flying through the air along realistic trajectories.
I certainly wasn't supposed to go in here, but I wanted to wait for the commentary to finish before proceeding. I've listened to all of those already.
The end.
What are they attacking?
Finish them, Freeman.
Seems they were all attacking the corpse, pretty much. Fortunate it missed me at such a close distance.
Beware the acid lines. Their corrosive spray permits quick carving of rocks, but it also serves as a strong deterrent to higher robbers like ourselves.
Okay, once again I will try to eliminate the enemies first. They seem to be playing some kind of version of hide and seek with me. Unfortunately, the Vortigaunt has quite a good aim and a very powerful attack.
This cave was originally designed with a pit in the middle, so the player could punt antlions into it with a gravity gun. In playtest sessions, however, very few of our playtesters actually used it in this way. The pit stayed in the room, but we changed the path to allow the player to descend into it and come back out.
Wait, I don't think I can. At least not from all the way down there, because I've already fallen down there and died, so...
Texturing of these caves provided a couple of significant challenges. We had never made such a large-scale area completely out of displacements before. The convoluted topology of the surfaces made them especially hard to UV map without unpleasant-looking seams and texture warping. After some early attempts, we decided that we were not going to be able to map this area using conventional UV mapping. We decided to write custom shaders especially for the cave. Our custom shader combines multiple axis-aligned projections based upon the surface model. This largely fixed our problems with stretching and seams. Since we wanted to provide dramatic lighting in these areas, particularly when lit by the flashlight, we augmented the source engine's radiosity bump mapping with a new piece of technology. This allowed us to create a form of bump maps in which the bump map surface details actually cast soft shadows across the surface. This emphasizes the surface bumpiness, especially when the light is at grazing angles.
As I said, I don't always understand what they are talking about, especially when they talk about technical things, such as textures, models, the way light works and whatever, because it uses a lot of highly technical nomenclature that I'm not familiar with.
The antlions are keen to our presence. Expect ever greater resistance as we proceed.
Save.
Traces of adaptation somehow sadden me. Return to the All-in-One.
I think this...
Turning the Vortigaunt into an expressive character was a challenge for animators, given that he doesn't have what you call a traditional face. To bring out his personality, the animators concentrate on shifting body weight and broad hand gestures. Most importantly, where human characters tend to move their heads a lot for emphasis, we concentrate his performances on expressive spinal motions.
What did the Freeman expect to find down there? Truly, the Freeman leaves no path unexplored.
I sometimes wonder if he's dissing you or complimenting you. It's difficult to tell. Okay, let's proceed.
So that we may proceed. A puzzling predicament of the sort was the Freeman is famed for swiftly solving. I will observe with great anticipation
Okay.
We like to lull players into a trance, then startle them. Here, we convince players they are expected to explore and solve puzzles for a long time. Then we abruptly change the mode of gameplay by throwing grenade-lobbing zombines at them.
And kind of spoiled myself with this one. I will actually let him blow himself up. Okay, I'm not quite sure yet. If it maybe will rise slower if I put something heavy on it. This way I could get there in time once activating it. Yeah, it seems to be too heavy now. Mostly let him deal with it because why not? It's really good at it and he has unlimited ammo pretty much.
The Freeman is an invaluable companion. Can we be of service?
Okay, I'll listen to this.
Wherever possible, we try to mine our robust physics engine as a source of novel puzzles. It's especially valuable for giving realistic feedback to the player solving the puzzle. In this scenario, we design the elevator to sink slightly whenever the player steps on it, giving instant intuitive feedback that it reacts to weight. This made it far more likely that the player would understand that he was dealing with a counterweight puzzle.
Okay, he will.
Pity the generator that requires a Vortigaunt to operate.
Okay. Save. Quick thinker, all right. Oh. Quick thinker
and a fast mover.
Yeah, of course.
Whenever possible, we try to give the player a glimpse of their eventual goal, even before they realize it is their goal. While we try to design such moments intentionally, sometimes the opportunities present themselves. In this case, while setting up the gag where the rail car slides into the abyss, We opened a hole in the wall and discovered a view of the distant thumper. It became clear that we could tailor the view across the giant cave to foreshadow the spot where Gordon would eventually end up.
Return to the All-in-One.
It's actually beneficial to have it blocked. Seems to be some outlines up there. It's also beneficial because they don't kill the zombies for me. Okay, that wasn't the wisest idea. Can he actually climb a ladder? Interesting question.
What next in the parade of constant obstacles?
Yeah, apparently he will stand here in protest of the difficulty of climbing that ladder. Do you? Oh, you do? Now I will never know if he actually climbed it. I doubt it. I suppose he teleported up here once I got far enough. He will show up here with a funny one-liner. At least I remember it being so.
No pit would be complete without a Freeman climbing out of it.
I think I need to go through here.
Behold, across the castle. That immense repellent device promises to cease from endless antlion attacks. If the Freeman is in agreement, let us find our way into that vibratory haven.
Vibratory haven. Now that's a strange turn of a phrase if I ever heard one.
A vibratory device is the most effective
Guess I can. This way.
Return to the void.
I probably should evacuate this spot because it's too. Whoa! I totally didn't see that zombie in time. That's how it ends. now you have to wait for a really slow elevator. While various things happen. Various things that mostly mean enemies spawning, I guess. In my opinion, as I said, the allies make it a little too easy. If they could die, then you would be forced to be really careful, but then it would also sort of turn it into a giant escort mission, which can be a pain in the ass. But as long as they are invincible, you can pretty much just run around, and they will kill half of the enemies themselves. It's a really cool, get a really cool view of him fighting. I would be worried for him if I didn't know that he's pretty much invincible. Oh, that was pretty impressive of that outlier.
Vortigaunt's Dispel attack is a radial explosion that takes out a swarm of antlions. It looks most impressive when seen from above, but that's not a perspective the player gets very often in the tunnels. We designed the exit from this battle purely to give the player a view from above so the Vor could put on a show.
Yeah, it certainly felt like this. It was effective, so I don't find it. Okay, let me...
Observe how they fight on below, heedless of our excitement. Well, this is all very amusing, but we must not forget the gravity of our errand to heal the Expanse.
Wait for him to open the gate, and then it will be a good moment to end the episode. So, save and see you in the next one. Bye.